Have you ever wondered how your phone just knows how to store hundreds of your contacts? Or how a video game keeps track of every single item in your backpack? Well, the secret sauce behind all of that is a really simple but super powerful idea in programming. So today, we're not just going to talk about what an array is, we're going to figure out why they're so incredibly important. Let's jump in.
So, let's start with a little thought experiment. Imagine you're a teacher and you've got 100 students. You need to keep track of every single one of their test scores inside your program. So how would you do it? I mean, the first thing that probably pops into your head is, well, I'll just create a variable for each student. But as we're about to see, that simple idea, it gets messy, fast. And this is the exact problem that arrays were invented to solve.
You see, to really get why arrays are such a big deal, we have to understand what happens when we don't use them. The real challenge in programming isn't just about handling one or two pieces of data. It's about what happens when you have hundreds, or thousands, or even millions of them.
Okay, let's back up to the absolute basics. A variable, right? It's basically just a labeled box where you can stick one piece of information. So here we have a variable for an integer, that's what int means, just a whole number. We've named it score, and we've put the value 95 inside. Simple enough, one box, one value. But what happens when we need a lot of boxes?
Well, let's go back to our teacher problem. You can see where this is going, right? We'd have to create score 1, then score 2, score 3, all the way up, and on, until we finally get to score 100. I mean, just looking at this is exhausting. It's not just tedious, it's an absolute nightmare waiting to happen. How do you even remember all those names?
So yeah, this whole one-by-one method, it's not just slow and clunky, it brings a ton of other problems to the table that make it pretty much useless for any real-world program. Let's break down exactly why this is such a bad idea.
The biggest problem here is just managing it all. Imagine you wanted to calculate the average score for the class. You would have to manually, by hand, write code that adds up every single one of those variables. Not only does that take forever, but as you can see here, it is so easy to make a mistake. You miss one number, you have one typo, and your entire calculation is wrong.
So you've got to be thinking, there has to be a better way to do this. There just has to be, right? Of course there is. Programming is all about finding smart, elegant ways to solve messy problems, and this is a classic messy problem.
And that better way is the array. The array is basically the hero of our story today. It's this simple, brilliant concept that takes our problem of way too many things and cleans it all up into just one thing. To really wrap your head around this, let's forget about code for just a second. Let's use a really simple analogy. Imagine you're in a kitchen and you need to carry a bunch of cups from one table to another. How would you do it?
And this right here just nails the difference. Using a separate variable for every score is like trying to carry all those cups with just your bare hands. You might manage 2, maybe 3, but pretty soon it becomes impossible. But an array? An array is the tray. You just put all the cups on one single tray and you can carry them all at once, under one name. It's clean, it's efficient, it just makes sense.
So, now that we have that idea, let's put a formal definition on it. An array is just a special kind of variable. Instead of holding only one value, it's built to hold a whole collection of them. All of our test scores, all of our cups, all stored neatly together under one convenient name.
Okay, so the concept is solid. The tray is way better than juggling cups, we get it. But how do we actually tell the computer, hey, I need a tray? Let's dive into the syntax and see what this actually looks like in code.
So, if you already know what values you want to store, it's a super simple 3-step process. First, you say what kind of data it is, in our case, int for integers, and then you add these square brackets. That's the important part. Second, you give your array a name, something like scores. And finally, you just list out all the values you want to store inside these curly braces. And that's it. You've got an organized collection.
Those two little square brackets, they're the magic trick. That's the signal to the computer. You're basically saying, hey, listen up. This variable scores isn't a normal little box for one number. This is a tray. Get ready to hold a bunch of values for me. It's such a small bit of code, but it has a huge meaning.
Okay, that's a really good question. A lot of the time, you know you're going to need to store, say, 100 scores, but you don't have them yet. Maybe the students haven't even taken the test. So you can't list the values in those curly braces. So what do? How do you get the tray ready?
No problem. You can just create an empty array and tell the computer how big it needs to be.
You still use the square brackets to say it's an array, but this time you use the keyword new to basically say, hey, go find me some memory for a certain number of spots. So in this example, we're making an array that can hold 4 integers, even though we haven't put anything in it yet.
Now, arrays are amazing. They're incredibly powerful, but they come with one, and this is a big one very important non-negotiable rule. This is something you absolutely have to remember, and it trips up a lot of new programmers.
Whether you create an array by listing 4 values or you tell it to save you 4 empty spots, that number, 4 in this case, is now set in stone. The size is fixed.
And this is the absolute key takeaway. Once you create that tray, you can't just glue another slot onto it later. If you made a tray for 4 cups, it will always be a tray for 4 cups. You have to decide on the size when you create it, and you have to stick with it. It's the trade-off you make for all that nice organization.
So let's do a super quick recap. Arrays are our answer to managing tons of data by stuffing multiple values into a single variable. That cup and tray analogy, that's the perfect way to remember why they're so useful. And the golden rule, the one you need to remember for any exam or interview, is that once an array is made, its size is locked in forever.
And that leaves us with one last really interesting question. The array solved our problem of 100 scores perfectly. But what if a new student joins the class, and now you need to store 101 scores? If the array can't grow, what on earth do you do then? Well, that leads us into the world of even more advanced and flexible tools in programming. Thanks for joining this explainer.